They'll be calling you a radical. Kellen Blanch. We have massive breaking news out of Fukushima, Japan, as so many of you know. We had an earthquake over there. This isn't a 6-point earthquake. This is not a 6-point. This is a big earthquake. It's not a 9.0, but this is, and I know plenty of you people are monitoring the situation, got the cameras on the cement fuel rods, and the whole dynamic is, my guess is that was a powerful shake. There's going to be not just Fukushima, up the coast at the other ones, as the propaganda machine has beat us. The propaganda machine, the 40-year of the anti-nuclear movement, the environmentalist movement, when are you people going to come out of denial and realize we have failed? We are a failure. We are a giant, one of the greatest failures in human history. It's 1982, 85% of Americans were anti-nuclear anything. Chernobyl happens just 4 years later. And now 65 are the greatest propagandists in the history of mankind. Rupert's machine out of London as that whole dynamic of, let's be clear about this, and I'm going to read some of Gooch's. Remember this, the propaganda machine is just not Rupert. Bill Clinton's freaking, I'm a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, science fiction economics. This propaganda machine is the IEA, as Mitt Romney said himself. Corporations are people. Corporations are not the people. Corporations are the 1%. And it blows my mind. Why can't people dig in and identify these, which Utah himself, I'm in Utah, as I'm fighting for my life. After I rant and rave and carry on about Fukushima, I go crazy. As many people call me the modern day Rachel Carson, give it too much live. I say everybody's going to get leukemia, you're going to get leukemia, then I get leukemia. As many people say, I think they sent it to you in the mail. You know, the IEA, the industry maybe, but I'm still alive and I live to tell. Look, this movement has failed. Why has it failed? You have no passion. You have no passion. You're nothing but a sucking up money. I watched the 70-year anthem, forced myself to watch it, fell asleep drooling on my keyboard. If Michael Jackson would have known that exists, he would never have to get addicted to propofol. Because I went into that hospital last October, no chance. My nurse is, Kevin, you know, you're on the list that's probably going to die. You can have any drug you want. Woo, which I had every drug known to man, and boy, did I learn about propofols. I had so much everything, knock you out. My dad didn't need propofol. He just needed to listen to you guys. Gunners and all these people get, I fell asleep, and I wasn't tired, and I drank coffee on my keyboard. I want to read. This is how this posture and groom machine has worked on you. This is how Rupert's greatest has dummied down the American populace into the world populace, into the dumbest, most ignorant mass ever in the history of humans, in mankind. The baby born, the Akapuma are the most ignorant, thus post-ignorance. Post-ignorance is real, it is happening via videos just like this. As I want to read something. This broke 2 days ago, and I says, yeah, this circuit, it blows my mind how so many of you activists can't identify what is powerful news and what is not. This is powerful. 2 days ago. This was out of Japan. This is the agency that regulates radio. You know, think about how many people died of leukemia in Japan. As we know factually, the numbers are some of the highest in the world via the nuclear bombs. One leading scientist, Augustin Niwa, acknowledged that the electricity industry pays for flights and hotels to go to meetings of the International Commission of Radiological Protection and for overseas members visiting Japan. He denied that the funding influences his science and stressed that he stands behind his views that containment of radiation worries about Fukushima are overblown. Those who evacuate just want to believe in the dangers of radiation to justify the action they took. Neil told the AP News interview, let's be clear, let's be clear, let's be clear. Those are uninhabitable for 100, we know. It kills you dead. That is fact. For people to say something like that, that is so obscene. That is so obscene. The official stance of the International Commission on Radiology Protection is that the health risk from radiation becomes zero only when zero exposure. But some of the 8 Japanese ICRP members do not subscribe to that view, asserting that low-dose radiation is harmless or the risks are negligible. The doctor on the preliminary panel, Nikishawa Sikamama, is outraged about the utility findings of Japanese ICRP members. She fears the radiation standards are being set legitimately to limit costly evacuation. The assertion of utilities become the rule. The utilities unacceptable. People's health at risk stakes, she said. The view was twisted so it can be out through there is no clear evidence of the risk or what we simply don't know. That is such grotesque malice Okay, I want to get into the 1% media, the dynamic of Chernobyl. Let's be factual. Chernobyl killed between 2 and 4 million people to date. That is unarguable. That is unarguable. The IH-4000 has, let's be clear on this, as this grandstand machine. Why? Why? Because the left took the passive approach. The right bully machine knows it hammered you down. It knows. Rush Limbaugh, there's no doubt in my mind, is a raving lunatic liberal. Has he become one of the richest men in the world with this Orwellian machine that is developed, as Max Kaiser draws out so perfectly, as we know. I was a derivative trader on Wall Street when 9/11 happened. We knew that they bought puts on the airline stocks. People came to me, how do derivatives work? Percent change over time, the Delta Fund. It happened like that. $100 on the puts and became worth hundreds of thousands. Where was the money traced to? As Bush says, very traceable. T+1, very traceable. They knew, right? As Kaiser's reported, it's being widely reported now. Where did it trace? Same old, same old. London. The banks of London. HSBC, there are your terrorists. There are your terrorists. Just like who is CNN? The banks. Who is CNN? The 1%. Let's be clear about CNN being infiltrated. It's not just Rupert's machine. Oh yeah, Rupert. London School. Oh yeah, oh no. Bill Clinton, oh here's a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. They postured and groomed that hillbilly into science fiction economics as Alan Greenspan the Great and Rander. There's your terrorists, there are your terrorists. Fools, fools. Here is the terrorist. I will read this from Gupta's. Let's set the background of this, how this played out. Gupta, Anderson Vanderbilt, who is so dumb he doesn't even know he's being propagandized by his own 1% mother and their machine. As the 1% that has infiltrated CNN, board members have names and addresses. Who are the new board members at CNN? Oh yeah, the Bank of London, the same old, same old. You think it's coincidence they take Larry King, a quintessential American, Brooklyn, and replace him with Pierce, I committed murder, Morgan? It is propaganda. It's the same propaganda machine. Even Orwell himself, Orson Welles, would not believe how easily this worked. How easily this worked. And I'll show you. I'm going to prove to you how it works, and I plan on filing lawsuits. This was Gupta. Let's set the background. Fukushima happens. CNN goes over there like they always go over there. How long were they in Phuket? Oh yeah, this could only happen once every 1,000 years. When it happened just 5 years. As global change, we're living in the biggest drought times, the 2 hottest years in history in thousands of years in the United States. Nobody wants to talk about it. The IEA, the corporate board members of CNN, of Fox, are the nuclear. The crowning jewel of the 1% is the nuclear plant. To get a license to build a nuclear plant, the government pays for it. You exploit the water. You robber baron the water. You don't put up one single penny. By law, you sell back to that very government. By law, which for billions of dollars a year. It is the crowning jewel of the 1%. It is the biggest scam economically in history. They are the most powerful people on the face of the earth. As many people say, Kevin, you ran and raved and railed against these guys so hard. I think they sent you leukemia in the mail. Maybe, but I'm still alive. Fuck them. Let's fucking talk about this. Okay, they go over there. Gupta and all of them go over there. They get this guy from Walsh, from MIT, as their posture and grandstanding. They're screaming on there. Gupta, Anderson Vanderbilt doesn't even know he's being played like a freak because he's too ignorant to know. Should we get out? Should we get out, Anderson Cooper? Yes, yes, I'm screaming. So they did get out. Let's remember, Sanjay Gupta, a neurosurgeon who took the Hippocratic oath. He took the oath. He took the oath. The man appointed to be the Surgeon General. He knows, and if he doesn't know, he's got to be the most ignorant neurosurgeon in U.S. history, which I grew up in a family. A neurosurgeon, my own uncle, saved my life. Okay, they come home. His Sanjay Gupta, MD, SGMD, the 26th of March, 2 weeks, as I'm screaming and yelling, they're pushing plutonium into the Pacific, as that's exactly how they've handled this. There were no containment vessels. It's been dumped into the Pacific the whole time, and now we're dealing with a 2.0 blockage of the science world will fail to report these. I want to read this, and I'm going to draw out the posture and groom. Donald Weaver, photographer, comes on. SMG Sanjay Gupta, MD. Credible credibility. Thanks for having me, Mr. Gupta. Gupta, what prompted you to go to Chernobyl the first time you went? Weaver, well, I guess you could say I'm a child of the 80s, and I was 12 years old, and I was stricken with pneumonia and was stuck in my bed for 3 months during the spring of 1986. And I remember in early May listening to the radio, and the disaster in Chernobyl was sort of looming. And at the time, of course, you know, it was the fear of the Cold War. and that we are going to be inhaled by nuclear weapons, as you know, as a child. Let's stop right there first. 1986 was not the height of the Cold War. The Cold War was 1950s, as my father was a drafted Marine, human guinea pig, the atomic veteran, in the trenches right here, next to the freaking Nevada test site, and mass murdered. As I used to tell people, that's how I got involved in this movement many, many, many years ago. I am the anti-nuclear advocate. By the way, my family got not one penny from these liars. There's your first. There's positive. Gupta, right. Weber, and ever since that time, I've always wanted to go and visit this Chernobyl, and what was the place called the Soviet Union. And you know, it took me 20 years old to finally get out there to be eventually to do it. What did you expect to see, Gupta? Weber, when I first went, I think I probably imagined what we all imagine, that was some kind of circus or some kind of terror zone, the three-headed monster rambling around in the forest. But when I got there, I was pleasantly surprised and shocked. And you know, blue sky, a very beautiful place, and quiet and tranquil. People living their lives day to day, working on their farms, working inside, going to work, raising children, getting married, dying. Everything that you would think they do in the Ukraine. That was still happening in Chernobyl, and that to me was, that is such grotesque lies, malice. Chernobyl is uninhabitable. Wolves living in the building. It is totally uninhabitable. It killed Chernobyl, the greatest construction project in world history. In world history, 500, bigger than the building of the pyramids. 500,000 men, Chernobyl. They all freaked. 300,000 of them are dead already, including Gorbachev's wife from this evil disease. They entombed it after 87 days. It shows the power of the IAEA and their propaganda machine. Is 1982, 85% of Americans were totally against anything nuclear. By now, 65 are pros. The propaganda machine worked. It worked. Nobody even knows the story. As she said in the beautiful documentary Battle of Chernobyl, the worst thing to come out of that reactor meltdown was not cesium, was not plutonium, it was lies. As the IAEA will tell you, 4,000 people died. Factually, between 1.8 million and 4 million people have died as the direct consequence of Chernobyl. And millions and millions, as it is accumulative. It kills hundreds of thousands a day, every day. It is the direct link to leukemia, AML, which I have, and I'm fighting for my life. Gupta. This was sent to me by a CNN whistleblower, by the way, as it was taken down immediately. One of the concerns, obviously, after the disaster, like this, is that the air is essentially contaminated, that it's dirty, that you're going to get radiation there, that just for weeks, but not for months, but for decades, even to come. Was that true in Chernobyl? This is Gupta, a neurosurgeon, a man appointed to the Surgeon General, asking a freelance kid, photographer, Donald Weaver, who knows nothing, has no background. He's asking him. Weaver, well, I think the concern for the contamination is still very much there. But you know, to give a little bit of quick background history on the region of Chernobyl, it is essentially an agricultural zone, which means that, you know, it is not necessarily poverty-stricken, but it's definitely a very poor zone. So a lot of these people don't have anywhere else to go. Okay, let's give me a little background. As you know, I'm a socioeconomist and artist, my post-ignorance movement. That area of the Ukraine was marsh of Chernobyl. It was giant marshes. After one of the greatest famines in world history, in the Russian famine, the Stalin thesis was to turn it into the greatest breadbasket on earth, which they did, by the way, another incredible, they drained all the swamps and turned it into the greatest breadbasket on earth. That's true. That is what Chernobyl is. So now that it's been inhabited for 26 years, it's gone back to being marshes. As he puts up people fishing at Chernobyl, let's be clear about Lake Chernobyl. At the lake, there are massive, gigantic catfish in that lake. Why? Because nothing's been able to spawn for 26 years. Because the catfish can live, to be 100 years old, so there's been no predators, no nothing. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger, eating the algae, whatever. Weber, well, I think it is a concern for contamination. It's still much very there. But you know, to give a little bit of quick background history on Chernobyl, is essentially, and I just read that, and a lot of these people in the village, you know, you're born in this village, you raised in this village, you want to die in that village. So you have nowhere else to go, regardless of what is poisoning you. Gupta, even now, I've just returned from Japan. As you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and rightfully so. Understandably, a lot of anxiety. Do people over there, because they lived through this, do they understand how bad it was or maybe how bad it really wasn't in the long run. That is grotesque malice. How bad it wasn't. It was much worse than anyone's ever reported. We know it's uninhabitable for at least 50,000 years, probably hundreds of thousands of years. Has 50,000 men entombed. One core meltdown. As again, it was the lies. That is purely malice. This is a neural surgeon who took the Hippocratic oath. He took the oath. He took the oath. The man appointed by the Surgeon General has the 1% mass media 1%. This is the malice propaganda machine. This is the foundation for this post-ignorance, as videos like this are exposing. So I think there is still a lot of misconception. How the thing is in the air of Chernobyl, it was actually a marsh area. As you know, a marsh works in a very natural filter. And at first where they're saying the half-life of radiation was going to be centuries. But in reality, it's just been a few decades. And not completely accredited, but it's still very contaminated. But you know the marshes, this natural filtration marsh, has actually cut down the amount of radiation that is still within the zone. Gupta. You have some very memorable moments. And I'd like to say, we looked at your photographs. Can you share a couple of these photographs when they put up the people fishing? This guy, he has no background. Filtration of a marsh? Really? Really? That is such grotesque, fucking ridiculous malice. That is such, it means nothing. It's a total 100%. They fucking lie. 100%. Gupta asking him? Wow. Wow. Weber, yes. They say that one kind of stands in the media. I say that one that kind of stands out in my mind is the most in the first visit in 2005. We were just driving around, we stopped in a village at the edge of the exclusive zone. And we met a woman and her husband. He was a coal miner. Okay, we're going to get into what they use as why the left has failed. As Mitt Romney uses it, they use code. The code where he used in one of the debates to save a few birds. That is code for you pussy pieces of shit tree huggers. We kicked your fucking ass. Shit down, shut the fuck up. We mowed you down for our exploitation, through our propaganda machine, through the Bank of London, through fucking Oxford, through Cambridge. We fucking did it. Fucking Bill, here's your Rhodes Scholar. That is code. Because here in the environmental, I hear it over and over and over. Clean coal is an oxymoron. That's what you environmentalists are. You are ignorant. Clean earth coal, clean earth coal, clean earth coal. As Germany has proven, 99% can be cleaned up. So that's where you go. That's how the 1% postures and grooms and freaking says, oh, it's cleaner. It's not cleaner. It is not viable. It is not freaking inexpensive. It's the most expensive. It is not. It's the biggest mass marade, fucking postured groom, fucking masquerade ever pulled on humanity in the history of the world. Scientologists. He had since retired for a few years. They come from the east of Ukraine in a very heavy industrial coal mine area of the Ukraine, and had actually chosen to come to Chernobyl to die, essentially. And he told me, he says, Don, you know where I come from, the snow is black, but at least here the snow is white. He goes, and when I talk outside every morning, I look at the sky, it's blue, and the white snow, and the snow, as you know. Wow, it's invisible, you can't taste it. So these morons won't freaking know. Oh, the black snow, it worked. It worked. It's obvious it worked. More malice. And to me, that was just kind of a troubling statement because of this kind of the power Chernobyl has. That is a very deadly zone, place to be. And you can't see what's going to kill you. And a lot of people would rather choose beauty over, something that is not beautiful, like a coal mine. So that is really what powered me to go there. Gupta. Really, quickly. Don, I know you're going to Japan. When you tell your friends or your family you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and quickly they say back to them, Weber, I've learned to understand what radiation is and how it can kill you. And it doesn't take stupid chances, It's been 6 years of making this Chernobyl work. And the reason it's been so long is because I'm dedicated to it. And I understand, it's not just that the radiation plume that comes out of the factory, out of the Fukushima or out of Chernobyl, but it's more interesting the psychological and social catastrophe, what happens when people are forced to leave their homes, when cities are abandoned, when infrastructure is denied, and you're sort of left in your town. To me, those are the sort of interesting, wow, you punk ass, you're gonna go down, you're gonna get so sued. This is not this photographer, he's an idiot. He is obviously just an ignorant fool. Yeah, you could visit, go in there, Femme goes in there now. Live there, like we live next to the Nevada test site. Why we're the freaking asthma, autism, thyroid cancer capital of the world. It is a human, it is the slow, evil, deadly killer of all killers. This is malice. This is a freaking neurosurgeon. Just extraordinary photos. And a lot of lessons. Last photo they put up, as everybody was screaming the fish are getting contaminated. We're dealing with a 2.0 science blackout. Being put 2 people fishing. Okay, next, Gupta goes in. He brings a doctor in from Japan. Okay, we know the dynamic of Japan. Welcome back to SGMD, Sanjay Gupta MD. You know in Japan there's word that the people who survived the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they call them hibishakas. I may speak the, I don't speak Japanese. Literally translated, it means explosion affected people. Now Dr. Kamiyaki was just a baby when Hiroshima was destroyed. She lived about an hour away. At age 11, also losing a friend to leukemia, she made a vow to try and understand the use of radiation force for good. This is more malice and posture. This doctor in Japan, go lock her up. Right next to Noda. Right next to the TEPCO executives. They're going to get charged. They really are. Gupta. Dr. Kamiyaki was 2 years old when the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, more than 65 years ago. His family lost 6 relatives. Her grandmother, her radiation sickness. Dr. Kamiyaki Anderson, Cancer Center. Her hair fell out and she had the nose bleeding and the diarrhea. At the time, no one in Hiroshima understood how dangerous radiation could be. Little Fukushima grew up playing among the radiation ruins. Kamiyaki. I was just too small to know how much radiation material is staying in the ground. Gupta. When she was 11, Kamiyaki say she lost a friend to leukemia and she became a suspect after the bomb and had an everlasting invisible effects on her city. She wanted to learn more about what killed her friend and how to stop it eventually. She went to the medical school and she went and learned about radiation. I volunteered during summertime to check out those people who were exposed to the atomic bomb. Later in the medical training, Dr. Gunn learned the radiation could actually save lives. Really? Really? Not just ruin them. Kamiyaki. When I saw these patients who had cared for radiation treatment, I saw the light and said, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Gupta, a cancer specialist. She uses radiation to treat patients and educates people how radiation can be forced for good, both in the United States and her native Japan, where most cancer patients forego the type of treatment because they fear radiation the most. For nearly a decade. I'm going to stop right there. My leukemia formed in tumors. It's too nouveau. I went through the most hardcore intense. I was going to die in any minute. I almost died. It took miracle after miracle to save my life, as many people call me the modern day Rachel Carson. I says, I will not martyr myself for anyone. As I've been in the head, you people that know. The doctor, I'm working with some of the greatest doctors in the world. They says, Kevin, we really are struggling with this choice after we chemo because we need to radiate direct laser on that spot, but we know that your body is so full, we don't know if you can take any. It's going to be a risk, so we weighed out the risk. And he says, well, we're going to go as low as we possibly can, but we cannot let that reappear there. It's the lesser of two evils, Obama Romney. I made the choice. Do it. As we know, come on, Gupta, you're a fucking neurosurgeon. You took the impact. Who doesn't know the radiation is? Who doesn't know that that's how we treat? Please, this is posture and grooming. This is malice. This is how you've been postured and groomed. And the left until you fucking understand this. And you young environmentalists till you understand that it is this. That is my art movement. That is my post-ignorance movement. That is my movement. You've been postured and groomed by the Bank of England, the Orwellian school. Fact. The money was traced to London. Fact. The CNN board, the Rupert board, they're all the Bank of England. They're the same people. They have names and addresses. Stay tuned.